I'm going to introduce the first speaker today. We will have brief presentations by speakers, and then this is thought as a roundtable discussion. Each of them will present a keyword to think to how to envisage a pathway to healing cooperation, and then we can have a roundtable discussion with all participants at this conference, Sapienza and Trance, Healing, Cooperation, and Imagination. So our first speaker today is Maya Vassallo di Florio, Temple of the Great Goddess Rome. Maya.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So I will talk today about pleasure as a key for health. What is the problem nowadays? That we live in a society of great stress, pollution, illness, and depression. And this is not something to address just as an individual problem, but it's a cultural problem. It's a global problem that extends almost everywhere in the world, but in some places which seem not to suffer this contagion from this illness. It doesn't mean they don't have illnesses, but they approach illness in a different way. And of course, they have a healthy way of living. These are societies that we can pick in time and space, which don't manifest such diseases or not in such way. For this society back in time, one could argue and tell me, yes, but they were in the past. For the ones in the present, one could object, yes, but they are far away from progress, from the progress of our modern Western medicine. So today I would like to bring a different view and consider one, that if we human beings created a cultural and social environment which is unhealthy, and this is the one in which we live today, we can change again. We can dismantle and rebuild, taking from the past what was good. So if story repeats, as we say, for bad things, we are able also to repeat good lessons, right? Second point, what is progress? Are we sure that this super tech, super rational, super specialized, super fragmented world we created can be called progress, really? Maybe this was the intention, but it happened at the expense of global happiness and health, which is also the emotional one, let's remember it, which, as we will see, depends also on relationships and spirituality. But let's move a step backward. What are the causes of these incredible crises we are immersed in? We live in economical crisis, political, environmental, humanitarian crisis that never happened at this level in the whole history. And the cause is, in my opinion, and in many others' opinion, a spiritual crisis, which is underneath. Lack of spirituality is disgregating our psyche, which, let's remember, in Greek also is connected to our soul. So spirituality is the glue that holds everything together. It is the frame that holds the big picture and the big picture itself. Spirituality is what gives sense to everything for we as human beings. This connection from spirituality is impacting on human beings on every level. We live in a society of war, violence, rage, lack of care for Mother Earth, lack of co-responsibility towards other human beings and creatures, which are seen more and more in terms of use instead of being seen in terms of relationship. Not to mention the stress, the sense of being lost, a zero care for life. We live in a necrotic society. One could say that the solution could be in being more spiritual. Not necessarily, I would say. Indeed, this disconnection we live in started precisely with those kinds of spirituality that started promoting disconnection from Mother Earth as an intelligent being and all worldly concerns. Once upon a time, there was goddess spirituality, the first form of spirituality that ever existed. For more than 40,000 years, people lived in peace, and cooperation, adoring the land and the cosmos as mother of creation and regeneration. There was harmony, and pleasure was sacred and shared between people, because people knew that one couldn't live in pleasure and happiness if everyone wasn't happy and in pleasure. Therefore, there was cooperation. In the last 5,000 years, patriarchy took over. According to the archaeomythologist Maria Gimbuta's theories, which have recently been recognized even by the scholars that could not understand her genius at the time. According to her theories, what happened? That people coming from places of scarcity of resources, so places where there was drought or the weather was very cold, there was lack of life, basically, and lack of ideal conditions for living, these people developed aggressive behaviors and a system of beliefs, and because this was their experience of reality, right? And a spirituality and a culture based on supremacy and power over, starting from the idea and the belief of submitting Mother Earth and all women and all creatures, therefore. This was the beginning of the dominance culture. This led to nowadays, what nowadays I call the patriarch capitalistic culture, a culture based on glamorizing the pain, glorification of sacrifice, rational thinking, hero's journey. One has to follow the hero's journey in order to feel valuable as a person. The divide et impera was a model, became a model applied to everything, and also to comprehend the world. We need to split things in order to comprehend, right? And this led, therefore, to medical specialization and, therefore, fragmentation of knowledge and inability to look at the whole being in a holistic way and to prioritize also relationship, putting things into relationship and being into relationship with other beings. So soon science became the new God. The old one was primitive. And we became, as human beings, to start the divinization of science. And today, the majority of people believes just in science as the new God. Science and rationality, and think we can measure and perceive and see. But approaching the world this way is like saying that if we can say something in English, then it's true. Otherwise, it's nonsense. Yet there are many languages to depict and translate reality, whatever reality is, if an objective reality exists. And the same we can say of science and Western medicine. This is one language, one approach to illness, but not the only one, nor the more effective. I am daughter of 2 doctors of Western medicine and a lineage of doctors, so I'm not against Western medicine. But what I want to say is that sometimes Western medicine tends more and more to imitate robots and to treat processes of healing like robotic processes. And this progressively brought to dehumanization of the healing experience. And what about art? And what about spirituality and ancient sacred practices and healing techniques that are connected to art? Because they both involve the mysterious process of inspiration and pleasure. So using the rational and scientific approach is like engaging just one brain hemisphere. Is spirituality the solution? Yes and no, it depends on what kind of spirituality. Some spiritualities indeed glorify suffering and detachment from the body. They cannot wait for the moment to die. They prepare people to die, the ars moriendi. But I would promote also, together with ars moriendi, ars vivendi and ars amandi, the arts of loving, the art of loving. Some Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, which I theorized as the founder of Temple of Great Goddess, which is dedicated to Aphrodite and is the first modern goddess temple here in Italy, is based on sacred sexuality and sacredness of pleasure. Like in Tantra, in Tao, in Kadishtu, sex and pleasure, which I mean not just sexual pleasure, I mean pleasure extensively, are ways to enlightenment and healing. Spirit and matter cannot be parted. Like Professor Greg Branden said, in cellular biology, we see it. If an organism is scared and the cell is involved in a defensive process, there cannot be growth, that cannot be expansion, that cannot be regeneration and evolution. While when there are ideal conditions of security, a sense of being safe and relaxed, the cell can expand. And so we can say for human beings, when we are not afraid and we feel safe, we can expand. And this happens when we are in a natural state of pleasure. As one of the most ancient famous doctors, Hippocrates, said, in order for the healing process to happen, we need a good doctor and a good patient. What is a good patient? A good patient is a person that chooses to renounce to what made he or she ill. But what made he or she ill, it's also cultural. It doesn't depend just on the person. It depends on the context, and we cannot ignore that. So we have to aim also at a cultural shift if we want to live in a healthier society and be healthy human beings, and stop glorifying suffering. A good doctor knows that data on a screen tell just a part of the story. Maybe it's not yet visible, but if doctor relates on human and divine level, she can anticipate and prevent reading signs that technology cannot read, cannot predict. Sometimes blood analyses are perfect, but the soul is not, and the person feels physical pain in the body. Yet some doctors say, the analyses are good, you're good, you can go home, but the person is not good. So what's the problem here? The problem is lack of connection, lack of relationship between human beings, and putting in relationships all the data we really have, which are not just data on a screen. Lack of care, lack of the pleasure component, the pleasure of the relationship in this case as well. Let's remember that doctors derive from ancient shamans. All the medical and pharmaceutical knowledge of modern Western medicine derives from the knowledge of ancient medicine women. Yes, women were the first doctors of history, or her story, as I like to say. But there's no time today for this topic, maybe another time. What I want to talk about today, after this long but necessary introduction, is that art, sacred practices, beauty, the real beauty, the one that moves the heart and changes people and inspires people, sacred sexuality, which belong to the realm of pleasure, are keys for healing and wellness maintenance. More specifically, a spirituality that promotes these is the terroir for healthy individuals and healthy societies. The core of Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality I teach is pleasure and sexuality as the basis for health. Sexual energy, after all, is our vital energy. And in a biophilic spirituality, it has to include sexuality as medicine. When this is locked, when sexuality and pleasure are locked in the body, then the vicious circle starts. Sexuality, as Dante Alighieri, the poet, wrote about love, is the force that moves the sun and the stars. It moves the world and everything. This is the reason why we are here. The Aphroditic force of attraction. And it's connected to the pleasure of the senses, the pleasure of staying and being in our bodies. When a person is ill, he or she will feel no pleasure in staying in the body, would want to run away. When a society is ill, people would want to run away from that society. So lack of pleasure, separation from our body, nature, and other people and creatures are the reason for these illnesses and crises in which we live. So healing, on the other side, involves the process of restoring the pleasure in the body and in the life of a person generally. The patient experience can vary according to pleasure and kinds of pleasure we include. I want to bring an example of one of my students. She authorized me to mention her name. I met her in La Sapienza during a talk that I gave here several months ago. Her name is Miriam Padovani, and she has been suffering from vulvodynia for 3 years. Vulvodynia is a pathology of the vulva for which she was in a state she couldn't even sit on a chair for the pain. She was in depression, she couldn't have sex, she couldn't have a partner. Her whole life was being destroyed. And she had been followed by 4 professionals, 4 professionists specialized in vulvodynia: a psychologist, a physiotherapist, an obstetrician, and a gynecologist for 3 years. None of those could address the problem really, and no results came out. She was indeed getting worse and worse. We started 2 months ago with the techniques I use as a priestess of Aphrodite and sacred sexuality. And within a month, she started feeling no pain, first of all. Now, 2 months passed and she has a partner. Her whole life has changed upside down. She has a person in her life she can trust. And she revolutionized her life and has a normal life and sexual life as well, which is satisfying. And she is enthusiastic about that, so much that she authorized me to bring her case here. So what's the kind of pleasure involved in this case? Care, the pleasure of care, the pleasure of the sense of being cared of, the physical contact that I used a lot with her, hugging, the active and empathic listening, smiling, using the mirror neurons, laughter a lot, trust, self-love and self-esteem increasing, the restitution of power and responsibility and ability to self-heal to the person, empowering the person, and so the decreasing of the sense of being helpless. And of course, sexual pleasure, which, as I said, can be medicine. So in my own experience as a healer with priestess techniques and looking at how communities based on sacredness of pleasure work, pleasure also in terms of relationship, not just sexual pleasure, but in terms of relationship, connection, strong community bonds have a big role, not only in healing processes, but also in maintaining a good state of wellness. Where the whole community is oriented towards pleasure and care, then healing and wellness can happen. And spirituality and life philosophies should act in this way. Metaphorically speaking, I'm about to conclude, we still live nowadays in the realm of Zeus and Apollo. So we live in a society of fear, pain, contraction, competition and isolation, mors tua vita mea paradigm, illness, fear, and so on, patriarchy, war. As I said, even cellular biology tells us that when there is a sensation of danger, that cannot be cooperation, there is isolation, and the organism cannot evolve. While Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality promotes coming back to our natural state of being, which is peace and pleasure, which should be our birthrights, the realm of Aphrodite, respecting nature cycles and pleasurably tapping into their rhythm. So I really want to promote pleasure, a virtuous cycle of pleasure, relaxation, expansion and evolution and healing, cooperation, unity, peace, a holistic view. And what are the values of matriarchy? love and pleasure. This will accelerate healing and evolution and growth as individuals and as communities. So we really have, as human beings and communities, to learn how to make love, not war, in the real sense, make love, to craft love, to create love daily. So, and I conclude, the question that I want to leave you with a question that everyone that carries out a helping profession should start the day with and focus their work on is: how can I bring Aphrodite's qualities of beauty, pleasure, care, and love into my life, first of all, and into my patient's experience? Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, for bringing this keyword into our discussion, which is something that is not really frequent into our discussion, to discuss also about pleasure in the context of healing. So, I mean, sometimes very often we start from suffering. So,
and the focus is on suffering.
Exactly.
Not on pleasure. That should be the real focus.
So this is really food for thought. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I introduce Francesca Romana di Giuseppe from Centro Sidera, Pranic Killer. Okay, you can share your screen. Really? Vai sul desktop. Sul desktop forse la prenderla direttamente da qui. Su condivisione.
Morning, my name is Francesca Romana di Giuseppe and I am a full-time pranic healer from 12 years now. Pranic healing is an energy technique that heals the etheric body or energy body or bioplasmatic body. Okay. Now we can see the different subtle bodies. So we can see the physical body. Then, next to the physical body, we have the etheric aura or the etheric body. The etheric body is the body that interpenetrates and nurtures the physical body. So, it is the main responsible for our health state. Because inside the etheric body, the energy life force circulates. Next to the etheric body, we have the astral body or emotional body that is made of astral matter. That is the matter of our emotions, desires, passions, ranging from anger or fears or happiness, stillness, love. So it is the body through which we can experience emotions. Next to the astral body, there is the mental body. Made of mental matter is the body through which we can think, we can accumulate knowledge, and we can store many data we learn during our lifetime. Mental body, astral body, and etheric body are strictly interrelated because every time we produce a thought form, we produce also an emotion in the astral body. And energy form of the thought form and of the emotion, they come down in the etheric aura, affecting in this way our health state. So it's very, very important to cultivate good thoughts, good feelings, good emotion, to be always in a health state. Next, we have the soul aura, that is the body of the soul. The body of the soul interpenetrates all the other bodies, so that rather than say that we are a physical body with a soul, we are actually a soul with different bodies. As according to the teachings of my teacher, Master Choco Ksui, the founder of Pranic healing, many diseases come from the astral body. So they come from astral disorders, emotional disorders, anger, irritation, trauma, bad emotions. Western medicine is nowadays very good in healing physical body and symptoms. That is perfectly okay when the disease comes from a physical, from the physical or etheric bodies. But when the origin has to be found in the astral or mental body, Western medicine can't prevent that the disease will come back in the future under the same or another form. So it's very, very important for all the healing sciences now and in the future to take in consideration all the different subtle bodies of an individual if we really want to bring him or her a really healing process. Thus, every time we have had different cooperation with other techniques, we always have had good results. In particular, when we have had some cooperation with psychologists. Because when a person starts an analysis path, thanks to the job of the psychologist, she or he starts to take out all the bad way of thinking, of the bad emotions, bad feelings, trauma she or he used to store inside him or her. So that the healing process can start, of course, but sometimes all these negative energy forms can fill up all his or her aura in a very short period of time, making the person really, really uncomfortable. Okay, this is how to clear once appear a dirty aura, filled up of negative thoughts or negative emotions. Like, for example, this. And you can see this typical negative form of anger that it appears in this way. So when the person experiences such a condition, of course, experiences a lot of pain, a lot of confusion. So she or he is not in the best condition to afford his or her problems and issues. So we can help, really, we can help to shorten the process of healing. And how we can help the person? We can heal the astral body. How can we do it? Of course, there are many techniques and many methods to heal the emotional body. By using pranic healing, for example, we just cleanse, we just treat solar plexus chakras and heart chakras that are very strictly connected with the astral body. So by just sweeping out all the energy forms of bad feelings and bad emotion, we can partially affect the astral body, making it cleaner, lighter, softer, and giving the person a lot of inner peace and also inner strength to afford his or her issues. On the other hand, by healing the Ajna chakra and the throat chakra, we can partially affect the mental body of the person, cleaning up his or her mental body from all negative thoughts, sometimes remain there from many, many years. And we can help the person to let go all the way of thinking, because sometimes, many times, the very, very reason for our painful experiences is the wrong way of thinking. But many times we get stuck with old thought forms and we can't let go our old way of thinking. So by just helping the people, by sweeping and cleansing the mental aura, we can help the person to change his or her mind and start to see and live the life in a different way. In this period in particular, we are doing very satisfaction teamwork with a young woman. She's 28. And she has had very difficult childhood. She built, during the years, she built like a protective shield around her astral body. So she tried to not feel emotions anymore, to not suffer anymore. But of course, this is impossible because, as said before, we are a soul with bodies, and the soul incarnates herself, limitates herself, a part of herself in the different bodies, because she needs to experience life. She needs to take some experience from life, and she needs, in particular, the astral body to feel, because the main function of the astral body is that of feeling. So the soul needs to use the astral body to take experience from the life, the physical life, and to feel, to desire. So when somehow she tried in herself a first solution to this big problem. And at the beginning, she started to drink alcohol because alcohol somehow has a shocking effect on our astral body. So at the beginning, this shocking effect maybe worked. Maybe at the beginning it worked. But of course, after a while, it caused other problems like alcohol addiction, for example, or other health problems. So at that point, this woman starts an analysis path with a psychologist who sent her to me to also have some healing sessions. So we started a healing process together with her psychologist. So by doing the pranic healing, we could touch physically from the very first session her very painful body of emotions. So I could took her negative feelings and emotion away. I could help her to feel lighter, more confident, trustful in the future, trustful in herself. And of course, as this has had an immediately impact and deep impact on her astral body, from the first session, she started to cry a lot. Starting a very deep healing process together with her psychologist. So the importance of cooperation and collaboration with other professionists, with other techniques, is mostly that we can heal each one different bodies, and we can help each other to shorten the healing process and to make this process easier for the person, because sometimes too much pain is not necessary for the healing process, no? It's better the pleasure. And we can really help the person to feel better and to feel easier. So this is how important is cooperation for us in our experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca Romana, for bringing this experience of cooperation. There's something that I'm also interested in asking you, like, but I will keep, perhaps we can keep the answer for later on, but how this cooperation might also include not only psychologists, but also other healers on a spiritual path. But let's keep the answers for later. Thank you. And now I will call Luigi Lattuada, Biotransenergetica from the Integral Transpersonal Institute. If Luigi can come online.
Yes, here I am.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you, thanks to you, thanks to all for inviting me. Could I share screen?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So, I would like to focus on trance as the title of this conference, and
Luigi, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Can you put your presentation full screen? So
Yes, I know all of you ask the same to me, but since I go back and forth to the, I would prefer to stay here because I don't go exactly one by one, but I shift one to the other. So I would prefer to stay here if there is not a problem.
That's okay.
Okay. So I would like to address to you this reflection that actually are a reflection of my next 40 years about the term trance with S. I started experiencing the trance with C in Brazil in 82. Since then, I worked 2 months per year in Brazil for 20 years, knowing a lot of shamans and healers and pages and experiencing the trance states as usually they are. And the gift I received by this work in, we could say in the Nagual, we could say beyond the mind, was a methodology which I call Biotransenergetics, that is a psychotherapy methodology, but also something broader that include the shamanism and the trance states into the term trance. I would like to bring you in this reflection about the term. As you see, the trance states are just an aspect of the trance, which means the universe is in trance. We all are in trance because, of course, as we know, everything is interconnected. If everything is interconnected and everything is flowing, the term state is incorrect, is an epistemological mistake to speak about states being as always in flow. The proposal of the term trance is the unity of the experience. Everything is in trance. So how to master this trance and how to shift, how to use the capacity to expand our consciousness and master the trance with S states in a broader level that can be used in the ordinary life. As we see, I propose this term, the circuit of the experience, to focus on what I call the threefold model of organism itself. Means we all could say have these three subsystems working: doer, knower, and feeler, or better, they are acting, thinking, and feeling. This is something that we can't escape. All our experience, any experience, is experienced by these three, could say, subsystems. And when we call trance state, we say, I am not an anthropologist, but I am a person that lived a lot of trance state and had a lot of experience with people that goes in trance state. And we could say, this is a simplification, of course, but just to focus the difference between the trance and the trance with S. We could say that some or most of the trance states are intensified emotional states. Means the person that enter in trance get an increase of emotion, the emotional body, we could say. And something is just an emotional intensified state. Sometimes also the action, when we see the shaman in trance, he's dancing, he's shaking, and he say that spirits is working, the possession, for example. So we could say that another aspect of the trance with S or with C is the spirit in action, the energy, the flow, whatever you want to call it, works into the person and make him or her shaking, moving, and manifesting something intensified. Or sometimes spirit speaking, people that receive channel and receive entity that speaks and give help to the people. And we could say that these three subsystems of manifestation of trance, usually, at least in my experience, but I can say most of also the scholars could say, these three states are not always integrated. Some of them, most of them, say that they are unconscious when are in trance. And most of the scholars also say that most of the trance states are fake, for example, Fraser. I don't think that even though there are a lot of faking, but of course there are also authentic states, but most of them say that they are not conscious. And this, in my vision, is something that they want to say this to purify the experience of spirits and to let us know that they are not involved in what happens. But this is, we could say, a pre-personal strategy. That if we now, but taking the teaching of wisdom of humanity, we could introduce this fourth element, means the observer. When we introduce the observer, means awareness, I am aware of what is happening, I could start to master doing, feeling, and knowing into one, thanks to the awareness. This is one of the conditions to master the trance with S and bring that trance in a broader manifestation and phenomenology, which include my ordinary life. I can stay in trance with S in my ordinary life. If I am aware of what is happening, if I am aware of my intensification of the emotion, of the spirits, we could say, coming, and of the state of thinking I have, the stage of thinking I have, I can master. So I don't need to, I enter in trance with C, then I come back to my ordinary state and I enter again in my normal dual mind and in my stage of rational thinking. Or I have to go back to the mythological, saying that spirits are possessing me. We could leave the manifestation of the integration of doing, feeling, and knowing, of flowing and expanding our consciousness and dialoguing with spirits, we would say, by being aware of. And by doing this, by, of course, with technologies, sacred technologies or practices, one of them is Biotransenergetics, we could get this fifth element, actually, the self-observation is observing my self-observing. Actually, there is another state of consciousness, which is not only, we could say, I observe myself. I try to be present, I try to be aware of what is happening, but also by expanding more and more my consciousness, I can feel that observation is observing myself. Maybe we remember sometime the sentence, God see you, no? What does it mean, this triangle, God see you? We could say this is the supreme consciousness aware of themselves, of itself. So, and we see different level of trance with S. We can get also this higher state of consciousness where we are one, the consciousness of unity. We are one with the supreme consciousness. We are one with the archetype of one. We could say the self in psychology. In transpersonal psychology, we call it the self, the transpersonal self, which assists, which is conscious of itself. So these are some of the maps to master the shift from the trance to trance in our ordinary life. And another aspect, important aspect, speaking on trance with S, is that here again, the unity of the experience. We always, any experience we can have is me, you, and the field. The dual mind of our society, the scientific mind, as the colleague said, and so, is used to divide in two. Also, the psychologists speak about the relationship, me and you. This is perfect. We can, with empathy, harmonize our experience, me and you. But again, this is an epistemological mistake, because we are not two, we are three. It's me, you, and the field around us. Even in this moment, I am here online by a screen, but there is a field among us, depending on your level of attention, depending on my words, depending on my presence, depending on your attitude to listen to me, if I am sympathetic or not to you, and so, if you are judging, if you are accepting. So there is a field around us. What I say is not only what I say, but we are in trance having an experience. We are me, you, and the field. So mastering the trance means master me, you, and the field. In intrapersonal, the five body that the colleague spoke about, I should master my whole body by doing mastering this relationship between me, myself means my organismic self, which I call the 5 level spoken before. The more I master my 5 level, the more when I'm speaking to you, I am in contact with my energy, my emotion, my thoughts, and my spirit or soul, the more my trance is balanced, and you feel good, and you listen and you understand me or not. But also, it is important to master the interpersonal trance between me and you. I have to say something that you can recognize, that you can accept, and I do this by feeling the environment. The context. We are in a conference of trance experience. If you would be in a conference of skeptical society, what I say should not be accepted, and everything would be different. I would say something very different. So we are in trance, you and me, and we should master this trance and what we do depending of the context. Sapienza in trance, at least. And also the third level of the trance is vertical, means the transpersonal, me and the spirits, me and the field, me and the essence, me and the consciousness. Me, you, and the consciousness. How much consciousness are we able to call? Think to the quantic consciousness. We let collapse the wave function. Which kind of wave we collapse in this moment? By our relationship. Which kind of spirits, if you want to go to shamanic way, we are calling here to work with us. Spirits means qualities, for example, the acceptance, the sharing instead of dominion, and so the understanding, the good will to understand each other. These are spirits which call here. Mastering the transpersonal trance means master me, you, and the qualities among us. I don't know how many time I have, but I go. You call me. You tell me when I have to about to finish.
You still
Now,
have
what?
5 minutes more.
5 minutes, perfect. Which are the basis of the trance with S, which I spoke before? The term, the suffix trance means go beyond something, go beyond the boundaries. For example, go beyond the boundaries of normal consciousness, go beyond the boundary of dual mind, go beyond the boundary of my normal movement, because I can move faster or broader, pervade. Our experience is experience. We are pervaded by the field, as I said, and everything is in transformation. So again, the term trance with E wants to define the unity of the experience, which is always an experience of going beyond something, of being pervaded, and on transforming. To master this, we propose, as maybe Dr. Ferraris could experience, with Dr. Ferraris you could experience later, we should integrate, go back to the tree of before here, knower, doer, and feeler. The more we integrate the doer, the feeler, and the thinker, the more we live a balanced trance, the more we live an experience, a full experience, an integral experience, and the more we go beyond our state of consciousness. We call this Biotransenergetic integration, by mastering the mantra, the mudra, the yantra. What does it mean, mantra, mudra, yantra, taken by the tradition, Indian tradition? The mudra are a gesture, but is not just a jest. It's a jest with power. I am aware of what I am doing. For example, I do this and I call the justice. I do this and I call the warrior. I do this and I call the mother of waters, and so and so. The mantra, while I do this, I feel inside, and I feel the red force inside, and I feel the warrior inside, and I feel determination, stamina, will, courage. And I do the gesture, I feel courage, and I see the warrior. My mind is clean by bullshit of ordinary life, and the warrior is in. This is mastering the trance. By integrating, we should in any moment be aware that we can integrate mudra, mantra, yantra, means having a powerful gesture, having aware emotions, and be in connection with the visions coming from the self. And we could do this, what I call integral psychogram, from the one, which always is two, balancing this, the forces, archetypal forces of the self, you could say, work into us. Here, this our 5 level, physical, energetical, emotional, mental, spiritual. By doing the 2-1, by always being aware of, go beyond, be pervaded and transform, we enter in contact with the self through the archetypal forces, the elemental forces of the nature of the spirits of, or the archetypes, warrior, and so and so and so. The vegetal force, and so, and we can master our ordinary experience, because this is something that happens anytime. In any moment we are receiving the force of the unity, we are manifesting by the duality, and we can make the 2-1 into the archetype, being aware that we are not just me, my bodies, but we can be archetypes working. Just to finish, we should, in this way, be aware that our experience, this is I call integral experience hermeneutic circuit, means that experience of before, the thinking, acting, and feeling, the experience is not only experience, is not only empiric, but is the empiric, the experience, more the hermeneutics, means what I live, more what I do of my experience, the state of thinking. Any experience is not the same, because I have the experience, but also there is someone in me, inside me, that organizes the experience in such a way. So it is important also, I call this transcognition, have an integral thinking, way of thinking, bypassing to the cognition, that is the normal way of knowledge, through the to the critical thinking of the academy. Is something important, but should be transcended, including metacognition and in transcognitions. What does it mean? And I finish. What does it mean, transcognition, in my vision? I have not here, but transcognition means we go back to before. Integrate feeling, acting, and knowing, observing, and be aware that we are observed by the conscious of unity. In this way, any thought that we do are not just our thoughts, but are the self is thinking. So we go beyond the rational thinking, and we enter in an integral thinking that helps us to master our trance. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pierluigi, for sharing this expanded view on trance. And I will now pass the microphone to Davide Carlo Maria Ferraris, who also teaches at the Integral Transpersonal Institute and is part of the Associazione Om per la psicologia e la medicina transpersonale.
Hi, I thank everyone for the welcome. I'm honored to participate in this conference and event. I'm a psychologist, psychotherapist. I live and work in Rome, but I come from Milan. And I have teaching for 20 years since its foundation in the first specialization school in transpersonal psychology. Since I was 20, I've traveled extensively for long periods, backpack style, even in food for days, meeting shamans in South America, Asia, and Africa, and obviously in Europe and Italy too, where we have a specific great tradition hidden in rural old traditions, as De Martino as well studied. So I had the opportunity of sharing some experience with them so as to be able to learn about techniques, gestures, and sounds, observing and minimally experimenting. Speaking of collaboration of treatment between different traditional and spiritual knowledge and modern biomedical knowledge and practices, as well as between different therapists, in our school, we use different technology of the sacred, starting simply from the use of breathing, rather than gesture or songs useful for contacting qualities of archetypal forces. But above all, we learn by working in groups between therapists and with patients in dialogic and experiential interaction. We also collaborate with mutual referrals between different specialists for specific intervention, for example, in the osteopathic or traditional field, like ritual healers, martial arts. And apart from this, we delve into the question of the workshop in a more essential and concrete way. I have formulated a proposal on an aspect that is very dear to me. Yesterday and today we listened to very interesting lessons. Now my colleagues and friends have provided very useful and basic elements regarding the topic of the workshop. And Lattuada has already said all on my part. Perfect. And I would like to integrate with a brief but essential mention of some theoretical and practical aspects in the application to evolutionary and therapeutic paths with a small experience shortly. Short but hopefully intense and pleasure and beauty. Beautiful and pleasure. Let's start from the key word chosen for my speech, which is void. In the beginning was the void, from which sprang the creation, as is right down in Genesis. Wisdom, tradition, and modern scientific research agree on the original principle of reality, be it absolute or reiterated in continuous regenerative instant. In Biotransenergetics, we recognize in the zero field of the quantum void the known place of every infinite potential to which we can return in freedom and salvation. In the source, the creative moment of rebirth in the present. The void, therefore, represents the essential opportunity for care. And today, a BTA, Biotransenergetic, practice of modern technology of the sacred and the jewel of doing and not doing allow access to it. The essential event is given by two elements, as Lattuada said, in interaction into a field. In the reality, we have many direct and indirect interactions in time and space, in different fields and contexts, and extremely complex system that is studied in complexity theories, and on which giants such as Erwin Laszlo or Ken Wilber in the transpersonal integral field have given fundamental contributions. But let's go back to the essential event instead. Over time, over duration, this determines a story with its implication. If we are able to contact the void and from it return to the present moment, we can radically reconsider every aspect of the related elements and choose to act creatively on them. We also allow the field within, around, and into ongoing interaction to express its natural truth and wisdom with great benefits at every level. Other element already named and implicated as essential is interaction. We can start inside us, observing the interaction between body, emotions, and mind. The information that comes from each of them and is received by each of them, the dynamic between them, the mudra, mantra, yantra, as Lattuada just spoke about. And having this attention different to all of them in interaction. And the final aspect intimately related with the void is creativity. We have a lot of knowledge, modern and traditional, at our disposal at the same time in an integrated way. And we have the void, from which we can also allow something present to emerge through us in the field that contains us, that precede us and anticipated us in a conscious and unconscious way, collective, ancestral, and archetypal. In this moment and context, as a demonstrative example, I would perhaps like to share with you the pleasure, power, and benefit of free vocalization. That is, without resorting to healing songs or structured hymns, as a tool available to both the therapist and the patient, in accordance with an ancient modality of the rural and pastoral culture of man and woman, on the occasion of joyful, of suffering moments, or of care, for example, to express through themselves something present within themselves and around them in the field of all of us present now. So let's try all together. So we'll do this short. We have 10 minutes time, maybe 5-10 minutes. Okay, let's be short. Great, okay. I have here my friend, the drum. I make it almost 25 years ago with the help of a master in making sacred drumming. Hey, come on, what you don't want to get out? It's a healing drum, safe with all the time. Hey, come on, what's happening? You don't want to get out. Ecco. Of the Lakota tradition. Okay. Voila. I'll use it afterwards. Then let's prepare ourselves entering this experience named 4 recognitions and going to the 0 point, the void. Oh, so let's close the eyes, contact the breathing. Can you hear me clearly? Let's breathe possibly on our belly. Let's bring all the breathing to all our body, the space of our body in the space around us. The attention goes everywhere in the body. And we can detect some heaviness, probably, some weight, small and big, cellular weight, or some parts bigger in our body. And let's, through our breathing, allow the weight according to the law of the naturalness, go down to Mother Earth, ancient Mother Earth brings everything from us and gives us back in return whatever we need. So breathing. And at the same time, let's contact our lightness, our inspiration to the Father Sky. Let's allow our small, infinite, small lightness to free and going up very naturally, allowing that happens. And so let's contact what's happening into us. Everything is moving. Everything is flowing as water. Everything flows. Yes. The force is flowing inside us. Everything is going up and down. Everything goes, everything comes. And then I go to the spiritual fire of observation. I leave everything being. And at the same time, I authorize myself to return to the 0 field, simply telling to myself every information from body and mind, as from the space around me, is only pretext for not going in contact with the 0 point. Stay in contact with the side. Even time to time. Stay in touch. Get more sensation, emotion. Amazing. With that, let's receive the gifts, the inspiration, the beauty, strength. To bring all this abundance in the daylight. In our path through the world. All together joy. Okay, slowly open your eyes, move your fingers, your feet, or your body. Okay, thank you. How do you feel? Andy?
Right. Thank you. And just yesterday we were commenting now on how in this conference sometimes we miss the bodily feelings, the awareness of our bodies. In the field as anthropologists, we engage our bodies in rituals. We're launching a book today about this, and we pay attention to bodily knowledge. Sometimes we use these techniques in class. For example, I use a methodological toolkit in sensory ethnography to get my students to pay attention to their bodily feelings, expand their awareness in class and in the field. But then when we get to conferences, usually sometimes because of the setting of the conference rooms like this one that doesn't even allow a kind of round table, and sometimes because we spend our days just sat on a chair and listening to presentation, commenting and speaking, interacting, but still we don't move around. Certainly there is a need to engage also our body in the conferences, in the discussion. So we need to find new ways to do so in academic conferences. So thank you so much for bringing these experience into this roundtable discussion. And since it's a roundtable discussion, I'll open the floor to possible questions. And please come here so people from Om can hear you from the microphone. Any question? So, yes. Thomas Shordes.
I have what I suppose is a kind of technical question about the drum ceremony. In terms of bodily experience, I was noticing that there was a marked irregularity in rhythm and constant changes in dynamics. And my question is, what's the role of that as opposed to, just a very steady beat at a very steady level of sound?
Yes, in fact, on the one hand, there is a specific, very precise rhythm that induce a change in state of the consciousness, quindi trance induction with this very, very fixed, specific rhythm on the one hand. On the other, each archetype forces has its own modulation, rhythmic modulation. In this case, I had with my drum a dynamic relation, so I wouldn't impose nothing, nor going through a specific forces like water or air or fire. And I left the drumming with myself in this brief, really short interaction, go near this specific rhythm to facilitate a change of state of consciousness, but at the same time to like singing and dance the drumming himself all together, like a relational relation and dance with him and you there. So it was a way to gather information also from the field of all us present, and leaving the singing of myself also sounds together with the drumming. Basically, our cells are really sensitive to the vibration of the drumming, recognize it, and was like a pleasure for our cells to be contacted in a way very sweet, very respectful, not even imposing the strength of a very organized rhythm in this time. Okay, what have you felt about during the developing of the sounds of the drumming? Right, it helped. He accompanied us in a place of complete freedom and contact over boundaries of the known, the expected, previewed. And so every one of us had the opportunity to find something now, unexpected completely. And this is what we need. Be reached by what we really want and need, authentic, in an authentic, the authentic, in English, authenticity is different, difficult in English. So we need this space of this facilitating structure, which on the same time leave us through the void an opportunity which is so precious, and we can recognize it and authorize it in us. And this happens often in moments not structured, not maybe at the end of long practices, maybe lasting days. Sometimes happen in the break moments or in the practice preparing to the sessions, that we get the point unexpectedly and we mature, we develop a change, a deeper change in ourselves, which can really transform our life path. And this is a deep healing. Really what we are looking for.
I find this is interesting what you said, because what you did, it's effectively, it explains that the healing process for the healer and for the people who are healed or self-heal themselves is also an art. It's not just science, because you joined with your profession the traditional Western medicine and the art of healing. So it's an art also. So it's not just, okay, I do this drumming because I decided in advance to do this rhythm, but it's a dialogue. It's coming in relationship with the etheric fields of the field, no? Of all the other people, and feeling also the variations that may different from one moment to the other. So you change the rhythm for this reason. So it's like, as I said before, an inspiration, an art, a dialogue. So it's not just one language that we speak. And also the component of pleasure. I think for all of us, it was very, very pleasurable to experience this void and to see also what could come out of this void, this womb of all possibilities. And it made me laugh to think about how in Shakespearean Old English, nothing, the void, it's a double sense for vagina. So it's like the womb of regeneration, which we can die and be rebirthed. So it's really the component of pleasure was very, very strong. Also in that.
And thank you very much for this word art, because we need to merge art and science. Of course, pleasure and beauty.
There is also a question from online participants. Paulina Palash, she's asking a general question to any speaker wanting to reply. Which types of meditation induce trance states? And more largely on the relationship between meditation and trance.
Could I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
This is your question is a demonstration that we not only have experience but also hermeneutic. We organize our experience. Dr. Ferraris just presented just a meditation for the trance that was the 4 recognitions. Means that as you remember the practice Ferraris proposed, they are called recognition because there is a difference between meditating like observing something being present or recognizing something. That practice that invites you to recognize that the Mother Earth is already working, bringing you down, and Spirit of Air is already working, bringing you up, and the water is already working, flowing into you, and the fire is already working, helping you to be aware, you become you bring the meditation into your life. You don't have to go for meditate or to create a session for entering trance, but you realize that you are in trance in your ordinary life by being aware that the field of the archetype are working here and now. So the passage from doing a practice, because you can use the meditation also to go away of yourself, not just to be aware. Because if you use the meditation as a practice to get something, you miss the point, because meditation is recognize what is happening. So we should shift from doing a practice or doing a practice which is not practice, meaning something that helps us to recognize what is happening.
Do you want to add something regarding the embodiment of the goddess and this practice of the techniques in order to reach that state?
Well, to speak about the techniques would be a really, really long thing. I would rather talk about the effect for both the priestess who embodies the goddess and the people who receive the presence of the embodiment. And we have two kinds of most loved practices in the priestess path, in the priestess training, that we use for people during ceremonies or in individual sessions. And one is the oracling, and it's channeling, in this case, the goddess in any of her forms and aspects, also specific goddesses, so specific qualities that we want to channel. And in that case, it's the priestess which is conscious and speaks in behalf of the goddess. So it's, we could say, a different kind of trance state. So she's aware that she's in herself, but speaks and delivers the message to the person that needs to receive that message, speaking on behalf of the goddess and saying, the goddess is showing me that, the goddess is telling me that. In the embodiment, the priestess becomes the goddess. So she gives space within her body for the goddess to be fully present. And so this is the case in which both the priestess consciously and the person which is in front of her can experience the presence of the goddess in flesh and bones, so in a limited body. And this is very beautiful as an experience, because we can give a human form to a goddess, but we say goddess indeed is everything, is each person, is the trees, is the birds, so we can commune with her in any way. Doing with the being similar to us gives us a completely different experience. And this is why the old statuettes that were used in ceremonies and healing ceremonies had also animal forms or anthropomorphic, or better, as I prefer to say, gylanomorphic, which means in form of a woman body. So they were shaped in form of a woman. And having the experience for a person to be in front of the goddess in flesh and bones is very, very healing, both on a soul level and on a physical level. Some people really give the illness, the physical illness, in the embrace of the goddess. So it's not the priestess which is taking the illness within herself. It's the goddess cleansing the body and the soul and the etheric field of the other person. And it's an incredible experience to receive the physical loving touch
of the mother of mothers, the one that is not good enough or bad enough, to quote Winnicott and Lacan, the one who is all. So that can be, I think this is the most profound experience of trance and of healing, and also leaves traces in the body of the priestess. So it's very energizing. It's a channeling that which benefits are not just for the ones who receive it, but also for the priestess who embodies the goddess. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. Touch is also an important technique in pranic healing. I don't know if you want to add something, Francesca.
Very short. Okay, Master Choa Kok Sui gave us a very simple meditation technique. The meditation technique is called the Twin Hearts meditation. It's based on opening the heart chakra and then the crown chakra that is directly connected with our higher soul. So the beginning of meditation is to open the heart by blessing Mother Earth and all the people on the earth. Then after opening the heart chakra, we can open the crown chakra, that is the connection with our higher soul. And at that point, we can just receive the energy of our own soul. So it's just technique to be recollected to our higher soul, to our higher principle, that as I show you before, is always there, and she's always trying to speak with us, but sometimes our bodies, our mental and astral bodies are too busy in other occupations, so we can't really hear the voices, the voice of our higher soul. So by just letting our consciousness going up, as we also did before with the drums experience, and we just let the higher soul energy come down through our crown chakra and our heart chakra, and we can just be in touch with her energy. And then when we are filled up of this soul energy, we can just share the energy we can't retain by still blessing the earth. Master Choa Kok Sui was an engineer, and he was from a Chinese family, but he was born in Manila, Philippines. But to guide this simple meditation, he chose the prayer of San Francisco of Assisi, to blessing the earth. So it's a very simple technique to be in touch with our own spirit, with our own higher soul, and then to do service by blessing Mother Earth. And of course, blessing Mother Earth and all our family, our jobs, and all the things. So for example, every time we have some earthquakes, some problems in the world, we just can join together in this kind of meditation by blessing, and so sending love energies and energies of goodwill and good power on all over the world. They are in need. So that's it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Even online? Well, thank you for bringing us these keywords, these experiences. The question of trust emerged quite importantly during this discussion, the question of taking care of oneself, and which is part of the healing process, this self-care. it's important, and it's one of our aims through these events of the Heal Network workshops, to bring together, well, to construct expanded conversations beyond the walls of academia, to open the doors to exchanges with healing practitioners in this field. So we hope to organize more workshops like this one. The first one, as I said, was at the Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina. For 2 years, we organized it there with the local practitioners. Then University of Oxford with, again, British practitioners. Now we have some Italian practitioners. We hope to organize the next one soon, next year. So we will then let you know where exactly. The Heal Network is open for membership. It's a free membership, and you can follow the activities of members, both academic and healers, on the Facebook page of the Heal Network. And it's important also to, besides these events, also to get our students involved in these practices, so to make academic knowledge more accessible. For instance, this year I've experimented the dialogues on healing in my classes. So I invited some healing practitioners. 2 of them are here, Francesca, Romana, and Maya, to discuss with my students. It was like in a form of a dialogue. So students then have to reflect upon the concept that emerged from these conversations. And it proved to be very effective in not just on methodology, but also theoretically, and also at the level of sharing knowledge beyond academia. So we hope to have more of these events here at Sapienza and elsewhere, also at Members University. And now I wish to thank our participants today. So thank you very much. Thank you, Luigi Lattuada, for joining us online. And
thank you to you, to all. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will be back at 2:30. Well, we're running a bit late on the schedule, so I will say also 2:45 here for the next panel, panel 3 on spiritual healing, trance, and mental health. And then later on, we will have the book launch of Other Worlds, Other Bodies, Embodied Epistemologies and Ethnographies of Healing. Thank you.